always looking down at all I see. Excuse me, Jamie, I need to stand here. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's great. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Matt, and I'm the lead pastor. So good to have you with us if you're online or in the room. And I love that song because I could use somebody moment a couple weeks ago. We were in northern Michigan camping with our family and some friends. And you know the most entertaining thing to do when you're camping is watch other people back their campers in that don't know how to back a camper out. It's great. And you clap and you cheer. Well, anyway, by the way, a couple years ago at this particular campground, there was an old dude with a sign that says, "I will back your camper in for beer." Anyway, I'm not there yet. Maybe someday. All right, so it was 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock or so. We're in the dark, the campfire, we're around the fire, and this camper pulls in, trying to get in this really small spot, and it was pitch black, and this couple is just having a heck of a time trying to get it in. And we want to like offer help, but you know how that weird thing, because husband and wife are yelling at each other, that whole deal. And finally the wife said, "Hey, could you guys help us?" And we like sprang into action, and some people from other campsites, lights on, phone lights and flashlights, we're backing them in, we got them landed, we're all cheering, we got them set up. And I just thought how good it feels to help somebody. And they could have used somebody in that moment. And I love that because you're here and I'm here because we realize maybe we could use somebody in our life. And certainly that applies to God, but also we're a church that believes we need each other. And if you're here because you just need something, we're glad you're with us today. And what we hope is that everybody leans into something that moves them in a forward progression in their life, in their faith, in their family, in their relationship with God. Hey, something I want to let you know about is next week we have an amazing Sunday planned for you. We're going to have a back-to-school bash in the morning. So at 9:20 in all of our environments, kids, adults, and students, we're kicking off back-to-school bash. It's going to be fun. Just so you know, if you're an adult, you're going to want to be in this room for the beginning of the service. If you're online, you kind of been online for the summer, you're going to want to be here. So we'd love for you to come and hang with us along with the kids and students. And then back at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're having what we call Kids Stuff, which is an on-stage production for parents and kids. Last year we had it. We were hoping 80 people showed up to it. 500 people showed up to it. It was a blast. The kids had fun and learned something with their parents. We're going to feed you. So that's next Sunday. Back to school bash is in the morning. And then Kids Stuff is in the afternoon at 4. Bring somebody with you. Make sure you're a part of it. It should be a really cool thing. But for this morning, we're going to be here about an hour. We're going to sing a couple more songs, and then I'm going to talk to you about something that's really important to the life of our church. I'm so glad you decided to spend the morning with us. So would you stand and let's sing our next song together. Your word is a lamp unto my feet. Your way is the only way for me. It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I wanna be on it. It's a narrow road, but the mercy's wide, 'cause you're good on your promise. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. If you started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You spoke and the chaos fell in line. Oh, I know, 'cause I've seen it in my life. It's a narrow road that leads to life, and I wanna be on it. It's a narrow road, and the tide is high, but you parted the water. You
If you said it, I'll believe it. Come on. I've seen how good it was. If you started, you're completed. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it was. If you started, you're completed. I'll take you at your word. You're good on your promise. Yeah, you're good on your promise. I'll take you at your word. I've never been more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Oh.
Going through a storm, but I won't go down. I hear your voice, carried in the rhythm of the word to call me out.
You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown.
You've never been closer than you are right now.
And you are Jireh. You are enough. Jireh. You are enough. I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh. You are enough. Forever enough. Always enough. You're more than enough. Forever enough. Always enough. You're always more than enough. I don't wanna forget how I feel right now on the mountaintop. I can see so clear what it's all about. So stay by my side when the sun goes down. Don't wanna forget how I feel right now. You are Jireh. You are enough. Oh yes, you are. Oh Jireh. You are enough. So I will be content right now in
from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom come and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. On the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. In the church of Christ our Lord, and His Spirit made the bed. Now His gospel to the world shall not live, shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
Thank you guys for singing with us. You can go ahead and take your seats. And man, we love singing that song with you guys, and we love it because it tells the story of why we do this at all, why we gather here, even why we exist. And that's the story that God, who made us and who loved us from the beginning, rescued us when we needed it, because all of us, me, you, we all have turned to our own ways
But God didn't just let us be. He pursued after us, and he still pursues after us when we run from him and turn our backs. And he did that by sending Jesus Christ, his son, and his love to step in and to take our place, to save us from what we had in store for ourselves. He died on a cross to take that punishment for us so that we could be made right again, so that we could have life and hope and freedom and all these things that we talk about and sing about. We have those things because of God's love and shown through Jesus Christ, his son. And I'm so grateful to be a part of a church where we don't just talk about that and sing songs about that, but we do things. And I know I'm in a room full of people right now, here in the seats, even people watching online who have skin in the game, right? That you have found something, real hope and something real through Jesus, here at LifeHouse, and you're serving and you're giving and you're loving and all these things. And it makes what we do matter. And that's why we do anything at all, to be honest with you. And so I thank you guys for doing that. I want to give a special thank you to anybody who's here in the room or online. There are a lot of you guys who are generous, because you guys know this, that to do what we do, it takes finances, it takes resources. And so many of you are so generous with your resources. It's the fuel in the engine that makes this mission happen, to see people grow in their relationship with Jesus, people like me and you and your kids and your grandkids. And so thank you to those of you who do that. And listen, if you're new here, I'm not asking you to give today. If you're just checking LifeHouse out, we're just glad you're here. But if you call LifeHouse home, and if you've had your life or the life of somebody you know impacted by this place, and you call this place home, I want to invite you to be a part of our mission through your generosity. If you've never taken that step, I want to invite you to do that. Nobody's making you do, but we just want to invite you to do that. If you use our LifeHouse app, that is the easiest way to give. And when you do, just know that it's going toward seeing people's lives change, seeing people grow closer to Jesus. That's an investment that doesn't pay off just now, but for all eternity. So we're so grateful for that. Well, we love you guys, and we're going to keep right on rolling with the rest of our service. I'm going to turn things over to Matt for today's message.
So that's a fun video, right? And it's really, really good to see that video, because in first service, and you all know we have two services, that video started to play and it didn't show up on the screen, and everyone sat in the dark for 1 minute and 10 seconds, literally. And then when the lights came up, I didn't have any of the things I use as tools, like the screen or the screen and back. And you may not know this, I don't memorize everything. I cheat a lot, so everything was just dead. We didn't have anything because the computer shut down. I'm telling you this because you missed it. And so it dawned on me about 37 seconds into the message that I had to make stuff up, or as I like to call it, freestyle, right? So I started freestyling, and listen, I don't know how to say this appropriately to you, but for about 3.5 minutes, freestyling was absolutely magnificent on the stage. I just need you to know that, and it was, I wouldn't say funny, but if you say hilarious, I wouldn't deny what I said, and you all missed that. And the truth is, our tech team did a great job of rescuing me, restarting everything, and getting it going. So thanks to those guys. I just want you to know, you missed an epic fail in first service, and you don't have that in this service. Last thing I'll tell you, so they brought my computer out in the meantime, because maybe I was gonna use that, and I grabbed the table, and whatever was under that table was now on my hand. It was green and sticky, just so you know, and you don't have to witness any of that in this service. So to get us going, by the way, my name's Matt. I'm the lead pastor. It's good to be with you all today. If you have been around LifeHouse for any period of time, you have probably heard phrases like this, that circles are better than rows. Like right now, you're in a row. We always say that circles are better and that life is better connected to other people. And you learn this in middle school, you learn this in high school, because you sat in algebra class and you learned algebra, which is important, and you took notes. But when that bell rang, you went out in the hall and you met your people, your friends, your group. For some of you that went to college, that space, in the middle of the dorms that you all just hung out late at night, it was so good because those were your people and you were connected and people knew you. And here's the interesting thing, we're all prone to be gravitated towards people that accept us and love us and like, hey, we know you and you're just okay here. And this is why we say we love circles. Rows are great, and I love rows on Sunday morning, but circles where people actually know us are powerful. And at LifeHouse, we call those community groups, not a neighborhood group, but a community group where you're authentically known. And we have what we call the ABCs of community groups in every area for kids and students and adults. The ABCs are accountability, belonging, and care. And you know this, especially if you're a parent, we all need to be accountable to someone to look at us and say, hey, you still loving your wife? Are you still being there for your kids? Are you showing up for your job? Are you being honest? Are you being careful with the addictions in your life? That's accountability matters. Belonging matters. Because when you are missed by no one, you're not missed at all. If you don't show up in a church like ours, it's easy not to even be known by some people. So if you have a group, they're like, hey, where's Matt at? We haven't seen him in a while. And care, someplace in our life, we all need care. We hit hard bumps on the road. We lose family. There's hard things, loss of a job. We're just struggling. And someone to come alongside us and say, listen, I care about you. It's powerful. Or for you to care about someone else. And we all need that, whether you want that or not. Real community that we're committed to and they're committed to us. Now, for our church, we launch community groups, small circles that typically meet in homes of 8 to 10 people twice a year, in September and in January. And I just want you to know at the end of this message, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say, I'm interested, and give you a direction to sign up. You don't have to do anything here, but you can do it after the service is over. But before we get to that, when it comes to community groups in LifeHouse, I want to tell you why we do community groups. Tina and I, my wife and I, have been in community groups of some form or another long before LifeHouse started 18 years ago. In fact, we counted it up. I think we've been doing life in groups for 26 years now. And I will tell you, it's not because I really want or need more friends in my life. And you don't want to be my friend because I'm not that interesting. I promise you, it's true. And it's not because it's easier for the church to do. In fact, it costs more for us to do groups in like traditional adult Sunday school, if you're familiar with that, because we have to staff it. We have to have childcare, and at the end of your group, and most groups meet in homes, so at the end of a group meeting at night, you don't pray and go, hey, let's pass an offering basket around the group to pay for this experience. We don't do that. And community groups actually decentralize our church a bit. And that means you all come here and I kind of direct the content that you hear. Well, it's a little dangerous because in groups, we let people talk about what they need to talk about when it comes to their faith often, and I can't control it, so it feels a little bit risky. So the question is, why is it important to us as a church? We believe because it's essential to you and your children and your students and your marriage and your grandkids. And this is what set Jesus apart from all other religious leaders when it came to how the church would work. This may be the reason why you grew up going to church every so often and your dad didn't really care about church. Or maybe your family didn't really care about church even though you went often or periodically. And maybe you've taken a leave of absence from attending church and you're back trying it again. And maybe because your family, or maybe you as an adult, when it came to church, you just attended. You were never challenged to follow Jesus and be accountable and belong and be cared for by a group of people. You just showed up, and I get this because this is maybe what I would do if I didn't work here. But you sat on the back row and you agreed, and you're like, that's pretty good. And then you went home and didn't do anything with it. And in community, I mean, real community where people care for you, they push you to follow Jesus, but more specifically, to follow through with following Jesus. Because there's some people in our lives that go, hey, let's get this figured out together. We've heard some hopefully helpful news about Jesus and the scriptures and how to live our lives. Now let's actually do it. Let's not just hear it, let's do it. And let's just be honest, if we could step back for a second, some of you, if your dad would have done what he heard, your life would have been better growing up, right? If your mom would have done what she said she believed, things might have been different. You can't blame your parents too much because throughout religion, in ancient and modern religion, one of the goals seems to be with religion is to keep faith in-house and vertical. That means come to the church building. You ever hear this growing up? Come to the house of God. We never call this place the house of God because once upon a time it was a grocery store and they sell beer in that back corner of the building. So it was never a house of God to begin with. I know, I'll never stop saying that. My wife's office, she works here, was in the spirits section. I love it so much. We know why she picked that. You can tell her I said that. Anyway, it's the house of God because this is where God is. And then you'd come and you'd look up. And listen, I love when we gather and we sing the songs, and if you participate around me in worship, I love to have my hands raised and singing. But that was kind of it. That's kind of it often when it comes to religious experiences. That is what it's all about, and that's good enough because it makes me feel good. Or the flip side of that is I come and I feel real guilty, and when I feel guilty, that makes me feel spiritual, and that's all I need is to feel guilty. Jesus showed up on the planet to challenge that. Because that's pretty much what all religions seem to do. Jesus challenged it, and then ultimately he reversed the order of it. And one of the ways he reversed the order of it was his most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, that he probably gave over and over and over again wherever he went. Because he would talk about believing and then living out what we believe. And it's not natural what he taught. In fact, it ticked his audience, what I'm about to read you, it ticked them off. And it probably will tick some of you off as we walk through it together. Just remember, if you get offended, it's Jesus, it's not me. I'm just an innocent bystander up here trying to tell you what Jesus said. So in the Sermon on the Mount one day, Matthew was there and he records that Jesus says, "Do not think that I've come to abolish the law of the prophets." To which some of the audience probably sighed in relief because Jesus was saying so many radical new things. They might have thought, is he coming to do away with like the ancient Hebrew scriptures? Because that's what they had to go by. The ancient Hebrew scriptures of the Torah, the Psalms, the law and the prophet. And it wasn't the Bible like we know the Bible. We have a Bible in a book or it's on our phone. These were scrolls that most likely were kept in a synagogue because they were sacred and they were expensive to make. But Jesus says, I haven't come to get rid of those things, but I have come to do something brand new. I've not come to abolish the law of the prophets, I've come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. In other words, I've come to land the plane. They're like, what, Jesus? You've come to fulfill them? Yeah, you were given this thing, but it wasn't complete. The law and the prophets and the Psalms was a placeholder for the king. It was the best representation of God that you could have at the time, but now God has shown up on the planet and the king is here and I'm landing the plane. And I want you to know how to practice righteousness completely in the way it looks to God. And here was Jesus' point when he said this. I've come to save you and to show you how to live. I've come to save you. And he'd give his life on the cross and shed blood for the forgiveness of our sins and the resurrection so we could go, there's where my hope lies. We talked about that in the last series we're in, the Fundamentalist. You should watch it if you missed it. And then he said, I'm going to show you how to live this kingdom life. Go back a slide just a second. I'm going to show you how to live this kingdom life. Because up to then, again, it was like vertical. God, I'm here, I'm talking to you only. And Jesus is like, no, I want you to be close to God, and then I want it to be personal with other people. And this is where Jesus gets into our business. your business and my business, all of our businesses. Because he says, anyone, all of you who is angry, just pause for a minute because you just can never help do this on a Sunday morning. Anybody get mad at the person you drove to church with this morning? You know, your kids, your wife, angry. You know, we all get angry. Anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, or you're stupid, is answerable to the court. So Jesus, wait a minute, you're telling me I'm in trouble with God if I get angry with someone in this world? Yeah. What if I just call them stupid? Because I call a lot of people stupid. Like I watch the TV and I watch the Democrats or the Republicans and it's just like they're stupid, they're morons, they're idiots. Yeah, I'm not okay with you being angry with them. Well, I can't disagree with anybody. I didn't say that. You can disagree with people. I'm talking about being angry for no real reason. And anyone who says, next slide, you fool will be in danger of the fire of hell. Whoa, wait, Jesus, now my anger is going to get me thrown into hell? Yeah, and this idea of fool is just saying, hey, you're not clued in, you're not smart, you're not wise, you're just a fool. Like if you say, I'm good with God, vertical, but I haven't talked to my sister in 3 weeks because I'm just mad at her, yeah, that's a problem with God. But Jesus, do you know my sister? She's nuts. I know she's nuts, but you're called to love her. She's the child of God. What about my brother? Yeah, it goes the same with your brother. It's a little like this. You got up this morning and you decided to come to the early service, 9:20 service, and you actually showed up early at 9:15, which means you're an anomaly at LifeHouse because y'all come late all the time. I get it, but you're there early and you're ready to sing and lift your hands to God, and the kids are all ready to go in their environments. And Jesus would say, but when you park your car early at church and you remember that you and your brother have beef, or you and your neighbor have a beef, or you haven't talked to your dad in a year, here's what I want you to do before you come in here and raise your hands and sing the songs, which I love it when we do that, just so you know. I want you to turn your car back on, and I want you to go to your dad's house, and I want you to reconcile with him. In their context, Jesus said, if you're at the temple, which was a huge deal, like the temple, where God dwelt physically back in those days, and you're about to give a sacrifice, which was like the most important thing you could do in those days, and you remember that you and your brother have a problem, Jesus would say, I want you to leave your gift in front of the altar, and first go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. What, Jesus, you're saying I should put someone ahead of God? No, I'm saying by reconciling broken relationships is how you put God first. It was the opposite of what they've been taught for so long. But here's what happens. Then and now we just go, God, this is all about this. And Jesus says, no, I want it to be about this and this, the people around you in our lives. And Jesus brought so much clarity to what God was like and how we're supposed to live. It was almost unavoidable, except the modern church is it's easy for us to avoid. And then he says this famous phrase, you've heard, which he's about to change around a little bit. You've heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. What, Jesus, are you telling me it's okay to commit adultery? No, that's not my point at all. He's about to lean into the fact that your heavenly Father wants your actions not to be adulterous, but he wants your heart and your mind and your eyes to get there first. And what he says next is so extreme. You've heard it said, don't commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. It's so extreme. Jesus, are you sure? Well, what do we do with that? If your right eye, and I mean, the audience should have got up and left. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. Wouldn't it have been awesome if he would have said, gouge it out with an old rusty dull spoon? I don't know why that appeals to me, but it feels like it just drives it home, like an old karate movie where they just pluck the eye out. Yeah, gouge your eye out with a spoon. It's like, good grief, Jesus. Why are you going so far with this? Because Jesus knew something about you and me, that what is on the inside that may not hurt people immediately will eventually come to the outside and damage relationships and people. What's on the inside when it brews and it stews and we think and we go after it, especially in the world of lust in our minds and hearts, eventually leads us to a world that we hurt people. And Jesus wanted us to represent him so well on the inside and on the outside that we wouldn't hurt people. And people go, you know what? That's a better way to live. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. And there it is again, the hell talk. God must really care about what's in our hearts and in our minds and what our eyes see. One of the reasons Jesus was talking about this is because this day and age, men, when they looked across the table and they decided my wife is a little too old, she didn't look like she used to look, there's somebody cuter down the street, I just want something different, they would just divorce their wives and say, I'm done. And Jesus says, no, in my kingdom, we don't do that. I want you to be faithful, what you promise to be faithful to. In this modern day, it's just not men, women are included now. I just don't love you anymore. You're just not doing it for me. I'm just not happy. I'm out. Jesus says, no, you promised to be faithful. I want you to be faithful. And I'm taking your excuses away. Jesus would say things like this: when someone insults you, I don't want you to insult them back. That whole eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth thing, that has come to an end. When somebody slaps you on the face, you've heard this, I want you to turn the other cheek, which sounds almost impossible. When someone wants one thing from you that you don't want to give them, I want you to give them two of those things or three of those things until you pry open your hands and you live differently. This is the way the world is beautiful again. Jesus would go on to say in this famous phrase, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Everybody does this, right? I love the people I love, and I kind of hate the people I hate. I like the people that are like me and for me, and I hate the people that aren't. It's the culture we're in right now. Side note, Jesus said, but I tell you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Don't pray about them, and we've all done this, I've done this. God, I'm praying about them now. Go get them, God. Punish them, retribution, fix them. No, I want you to pray for them, that they know they have a hope in the kingdom of God. Jesus just changed everything. He took something that looked this way and he turned it upside down. This is the way you live in a righteous way in my kingdom. This is how you love God, that when your enemy persecutes you, you forgive. Now, they thought, like maybe you're thinking, because you're thinking about the people you'll never be able to love or forgive, which I know most of you are better than that, but maybe you are. Jesus, that's not realistic. Nobody does this, Jesus. You're just another religious leader that says one thing and does another, until the day some people beat him until he was almost dead. Laid him on a Roman rugged cross and drove nails into his hands and feet and slammed a crown of thorns on his head and raised him up and mocked him and watched him bleed to death. And he looked at him. Father, forgive them. Even now, forgive them. And his followers, after the resurrection, thought, that's what he's talking about. He not only told us to do it, he did it himself on a bloody Roman cross. Here's the question for us. Those of us that would call ourselves Christians or church people, if you're visiting, you just get to maybe ask this question for us. What if we, the church, actually did what Jesus said? In the culture we're in right now, when it's so tumultuous and everybody's so angry in the season of life, what if we just did what Jesus said in these few areas with our enemies and people we don't like and people we disagree with? And don't think it wasn't a struggle for Jesus' guys. One of Peter's worst day. Peter was Jesus' guy, one of his closest friends. He's walking along with Peter and the crew, and they're all kind of the same. They're good Jewish boys, and they walk up, and this is one of my favorite stories. I wish I could tell it every Sunday. They walk up on Matthew, the tax collector. And I always tell you, and you know this because you're smart people, that tax collector was the worst of the worst sinners because they took taxes for Rome from the Jewish people and then took extra and kept it for themselves. But it never seems to satisfy because we just don't know maybe how that works or feels in our culture. So here's what I want you to imagine. Matthew is the shining star of big government, big regulation, Lots of taxes on every corner. This is what big government looks like. And Peter and the boys, they're like libertarians, or they're like no government or freedom or whatever. And they're the freedom group. And they're a community group. And Jesus is walking along with that group, and he says, hey, Matthew, big government Matthew, you want to be part of our community group? To which Peter had to have thought, hey, Jesus, hey, we're not for big government. We can't let him in. Peter, we're letting everybody in. And if you're gonna be part of my kingdom, this is how it goes. And Matthew, there's gonna be these guys in your group, we're gonna all get together and we're gonna figure out how this works, but we're gonna love each other, because I have not just come for you to be reconciled to God, although that is a huge part of it. I've come to reconcile the world to each other as believers in Jesus. And Matthew got up and he went with them. And Peter learned to love Matthew. And Matthew learned to love Peter. And it changed their lives. That's how God loves. Jesus would say, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Which, if you're a theological person, you just got to be honest. This kind of rubs against our theology as Christians, especially conservative evangelical Christians. Because like Jesus, I thought we're forgiven because of the cross and it's not a works thing. Jesus just must want to make a point about how much God loves people. Because he goes on and says, but if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. And I thought about this morning just explaining this away from a theological context, but I'm just going to leave it like Jesus said it. You need to forgive, because I love the people you haven't forgiven in your life, and I forgave you everything in your life. Then Jesus would go on, he would talk about being generous, something people in church hate to talk about. I've heard this my entire adult ministry career. Hey, don't talk to us about money. It's too private. It's all the church wants. And Jesus, he would just walk in and go, listen, if you're not being generous, consistently generous, you're not following me. Because if you think everything is for you and you're hoarding all your stuff for you, it's not how my kingdom works. And I want you to be generous. And just when you think you're being generous, I want you to be more generous so you know what you have is not all yours. And this was new for them. Maybe this is new for some of you, because they had heard their entire life as Jewish people, don't do to another what you don't want done to you. In other words, if you don't want trouble, don't make trouble. If you don't want trouble, don't make trouble. Or what you tell your kids, don't touch the hornet's nest and the hornets won't bother you. And that makes sense, and it's not bad wisdom, but isn't it true that this requires like no compassion? It requires no love for another human being. If I mind my own business, I'll be fine. And Jesus said, this is not how my kingdom's gonna work. I want you to follow me. And so we're not gonna go with, don't bother them and they won't bother you. He would say, listen, in everything. What's everything? In your circumstances, in your home, in your marriage, in your work, in your politics, what's happening down the street, in everything, do to others. Take the initiative. Look for an opportunity. Do to the others what you would have them do or respond if they are in your shoes. This is so brilliant. What you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Treat people like they're God's children, like they're made in the image of God. This is how we fulfill the law and the prophets. You know the Good Samaritan story Jesus would say? You know the Samaritan that the Jewish people hate? Yeah, he came and he helped a Jewish person who was really in bad trouble, been beat up in the street after a priest and a Jewish lawyer had walked by them. He helped them. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to be amused or entertained or post it on Facebook and put your hand on your heart and go, oh, I feel so warm about the Samaritan story. Jesus would say, no, my kingdom are gonna be full of people that do this. Jesus, are you sure? Yeah, I'm really sure. How much does this mean to you, Jesus? It's what I'm going to the cross for you and the rest of the world. He would just like put an exclamation point on this way of living. And he said, and we've sang songs about this if you grew up in Sunday school, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice, I've heard them and now I'm doing them, is like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. See, hearing and doing takes longer because it builds and it gets stronger. It takes a lot of effort, but in the end, when I hear what Jesus says and I do it, my life can stand and it shows something substantial and it's just better. But in the church, the modern church, the ancient church, and I think you guys do really well at this, but not all of you. When you come and you sit and you agree and you take notes and you leave and you don't do it, Jesus would say your house is built on sand because the storms came and the sand dissolved and your house gets washed away. I've seen this so many times. This is a doing kind of faith. We're saved through faith and grace through the cross, but doing changes the world around us. Jesus, you know what he would do? When lepers would come to him. I mean, leprosy. Your nose falls off, your ears fall off, you eventually die. It was a horrible way to die. Lepers would walk in, and they were banned from all parts of the community. Jesus would just boldly walk up and he'd embrace them and heal them and love them like they were everybody else. It's really hard to do. There was a centurion, a Roman centurion. He represented big, oppressive, awful government. He came to Jesus one day and says, Jesus, my servant's dying, would you heal him? And Jesus did two things. Actually did one and said one. He said, yeah, your servant's healed. And then he said in front of all the Jewish audience, I've not seen anyone in Israel with the kind of faith as this Roman centurion. It was so offensive to his own people. He just was going to make it inclusive for everybody to come into the kingdom of God. And then this is what happened. The first century church, they heard what Jesus taught, and then they watched him die and rise from the dead, and he returned to heaven. And the first century churches decided, we are gonna do this. And they started to live this out in the most amazing ways that changed the world. They just decided when they saw what Jesus taught and heard what Jesus taught, we're gonna live that way. And we're gonna give that way. And we're gonna forgive that way. One another way. That's why they called Christianity the way in the beginning, because this is the way you lived, and it shook an empire. The most unimaginable thing to me is Rome, which was probably the most expansive empire that the world has ever seen. It was all over the world in ways it should never have been. Was like totally against Christianity. In fact, Nero, and if you've been around here, you've heard me say this, he would light his camp with Christians on poles, and he would dip them in pitch and light them on fire, and that's the way he would illuminate his campgrounds and have parties around burning Christians. He did it over and over and over and over again. They hated Christians. But these early church people they followed Jesus in such a way that people were drawn to it. And more people believed until 3 centuries later, Nero hated Christians. Constantine, he became one. I'm not saying he was a great Christian, but he became one. And now Rome is a Christian nation. It's amazing the impact the church had on the first century. And something happened along the way, though. The church evolved back to a box, and only vertical. Come to our box on Sunday morning and look up and raise your hands and be taught something. And that's what you're supposed to do. The church recreated the very thing that Jesus came to dismantle. It's just me and God. It's just me and God. It's my own personal faith. That's all it is. I'm detached. It's religion. I'm okay with God. If it's just me and God, then I'm okay. But here's the beautiful part of the church. There's always been a group, a remnant, a small group of people that have held on to the teachings of Jesus. Some of you you're that group of people that decided we're not gonna just be believers, we're gonna be doers of what our King wants. So here's my question for you today. If you're a follower of Jesus, if you're not, you just get to think through this with us. How's your doing going right now? How are you doing with your doing? And how are you doing? Or, and I love this line, or Are you just mooing? Now, some of you don't know what that means because you're new to church. Let me tell you what that means. When I say something inspirational or read something out of Scripture and you agree with it, I love this. You shake your head and go, You're mooing. I've been asked by people, hey, Matt, why do people moo in church? They're just agreeing with what the guy on stage is saying. I agree, and I'm going to share it with my Bible study, and I'm going to write some notes down about it, and I think it's great, and then I'm going to go, and I'm not going to do anything with it. The truth is, and this is why some of you quit the church is famous for that. This is what I believe. No change, no impact on the world around us. It's why I think everybody needs a circle. And here's the thing. And I almost didn't say this in first service, but I think I'm going to say it again. I've been on vacation for 2 weeks. This is the first Sunday back in 2 weeks. And I really appreciate how many people was like, hey, we're glad you're back. We missed you. Yeah, and sometimes it goes way too far. And then some of you are like, oh, he's back. I had to hear that same mooing joke one more time. He's back. If you feel that way, just don't tell me you feel that way. Anyway, I appreciate the fact that people like me, but listen, I'm 54 years old. The goal of our church is not for you to like me. The goal of our church is not for you to be entertained by me. The goal of the church is not some popularity contest. The goal of the church is that we would be like our Savior, Jesus, and live and act and emulate everything He did. Because when you listen, even if you agree and do nothing with it, it makes almost no difference in the world. It's why you need to be in a circle with other people that are holding you accountable and that you belong to and that are caring for you. Maybe for you, the question is, does your faith have feet? Does your faith have feet? Listen, 18 years ago, we started this church. And we started it because we had a mission to reach people that weren't close to God. And I was passionate about this. But here's the other part of that story. I came out of a world where I had some church hurt. I kind of hate that phrase, but I had some church hurt. And I had some bitterness towards some church people in my past. And I decided I wanted to, be a part of a church that reaches people, but I also wanted to show some people that there's a better way to do it. And if you know me, I like to win, and I can run over people when I want to win at things. And so I had some bitterness going on. And here's the thing, the church worked. We grew fast, a lot of people came, and at the same time, there was something in me that was just a little bit ugly because I wanted to win and show some people. And what I needed somebody to do in that moment of my life is to ask me if I would practice what I preach. Matt, you're talking about loving your enemy and forgiving people, but it sounds like you're a little bit bitter towards some people in the past with your church experience. And so I had some people in my life, a circle, like we're talking about. And they listened to me and they let me talk through it over and over, and they had empathy and they didn't try and correct me. But one day, a friend in my circle, when he heard me just kind of being real negative towards some church people, he said, hey, Matt, you know what Jesus calls the church, don't you? He calls them His bride. And you're talking badly about the bride of Christ. How would you feel if someone would talk bad about your bride? I was younger then. I'm like, well, I would go fix that right now. Yeah, that's how Jesus feels. And in that moment, something started to change in my heart because somebody poked at something I needed to be poked at, picked at, pushed on. And it changed me. And I just said, I got to get this right, and I got to work this out, and I got to let some of that go. You and I, we need each other to do this in smaller circles to get this done because life is complicated. Life is hard, and we're all tempted to give up on this Jesus thing because it's really difficult. In fact, I'll just say this, and I'll be the first to say this. You come every Sunday, and I make this sound easy. I'm like, hey, just follow Jesus, and we'll see you next week, right? Just follow Jesus, and we'll see you next week. I say it over and over. And when I say that, it sounds easy, but you have some parents in your life that aren't easy. Follow Jesus when it comes to your parents. Go forgive them. Well, that's really hard for some people. Your marriage right now may be really hard, and you're looking across the table at your spouse. You're not sure if you can keep it on, and it's not easy. Your business is hard. Your kids are, doing things you wish they weren't. And I say this and you're like, Matt, you just don't get it. And you're right, I don't get your story. In fact, some of you, let's just be honest, you think on Sundays they roll me out of the dungeon, put me on stage, let me talk and roll me back in and lock me up, right? That's what you think. Or return to some special pastor place where pastors live. I don't get your story. But somebody gets your story. Somebody's been where you're at. Somebody's gone through what you've gone through, and you need them in your life. In fact, some of you have been there and you need to be in somebody else's life for them. Because here's the truth, anytime you're in a church over 50 people, this is kind of a secret thing no one talks about. Anytime you're in a church over 50 people, the pastor just needs to tell you, I can't be there for you. And we don't have 50 people that come to our church. We have 2,000 people that come to our church month in and month out. I can't be there for you, either can our staff, but somebody can. Some peoples can. I love it that we have some parents of middle schoolers. They have multiple kids in middle school, and they're in a group together, community group together, and they're all like, how are we gonna navigate middle school? Because the girls are crazy and the boys smell bad. Or maybe it's vice versa, I'm not sure. But it's hard and it's complicated, but they're gathering up, trying to figure out life together, and they're leaning on each other. Maybe you're in a blended family stage and you've gathered up some other blended families, because that can be complicated and you're learning how to navigate a blended family. If you're an empty nester like me, maybe you just need some other people to say, how do we do this now? It's different, it's new. And for some of us that have been through it, and we've got some experience and we know how to lead and we know a little bit about the Bible, there's some people coming behind us that need us to actually lead their community group. So think about this. I love it. It's why I love Rose. I love singing the songs. I love coming in here on Sunday morning. But we just can't stop there. We need more people like Sue Wehage. You may not know Sue. She's amazing at our church. This is her community group of women that she leads. I love Sue because Sue volunteers in our guest services out in the lobby. Then she leads this group. She also works with battered women in our community as a volunteer. She's just decided, I'm not going to be a hearer of what Jesus said. I'm going to do what Jesus said. And I might get in trouble for saying this, I haven't yet, but this is a group, and I don't know what to call them, so I'm just gonna call this is a group of experienced women. That's how I'm gonna say, because I'm in this kind of stage of life, and there's the woman when they go to a restaurant, they can cause a ruckus. They're so much fun. I love these gals when they get together, but they're doing life together. And Sue's decided, I wanna play a part in leading them along the way. But not only is she the leader of this women's group, she's in another group that's led by Bob and Barb Stanley, and this is a couples group, and this is Sue's husband, John. And I love this because they're a little more experienced and mature in their life, but unlike so many older folks in so many churches, they're not dipping out, they're not hitting cruise control, they're not just gliding by, they're like, we wanna be in the mix and we wanna be part of this. I love that for them. And we talk so much about kids and students. I just wanted to show you maybe my end of things where people are still like, we're gonna be part of what matters. Because Sue's group, your high schooler, your middle schooler, your kid, we all need this ABCs of a community group. Accountability, belonging, and care. If you're not accountable to somebody, you may never change. And if you don't belong when you stop showing up, no one will miss you around here. And I don't want you to go unmissed. And care, you don't want to see me come into the hospital room. I promise you, that's a bad, bad thing. If I show up in your hospital, you want someone there when things go hard and get hard and there's bumps in the road, just to be there to care for you consistently. And if you're gonna practice what Jesus preached, you just need a circle of people. And in our church, we have men's circles, we have women's circles, and we have singles or men's, I'll get this right, men's, women's, and couples circles where they gather, usually in homes. share what's going on in their lives, and cheer each other on. And group launch, this is when we launch them twice a year, is coming up, and it's September 8th. And we'd love for you to let us know that you're interested in being part of a group. And here's the easiest way for you to do that. There's a QR code in the chair in front of you, which there's always a QR code. If you take your phones out and scan it, you can say, hey, I'm interested in a group. You can use the church app. If you're online, there's a link in the chat bar where you're watching. And in the lobby, there's a group of people that would just love to talk to you about being part of a community group. We would love for you just to give us a glimpse of, hey, I want to be part of something. I'm not sure yet, and I'm not even committing, but I want to let you know that I'm interested, and you're invited to do that. Here's the thing. If you're new to church, we want to make this so easy for you. Let's just be honest, though. If you've been doing this for a while, it shouldn't be easy. You should do it whether it's easy or not, because we can't get there alone. We've got God and his Spirit and his word, but he also said we need each other. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's be the church Jesus came to establish. And let's change maybe not the whole world, but our little part of the world, and maybe the world that sits around your table at night with those little eyes that look up at you and just hoping you'll be part of a good part of their world. Guys, thanks for being here. You're dismissed. Have a great rest of your day.